Well, welcome to Resource, the number 4, CARE. We are a educational resource for seniors and their adult children. And each month we have health practitioners, licensed professionals, or wellness professionals come and speak to us about different topics and make that available on resourceforcare.com. And today we have Kelsey DeFries. Kelsey owns her own home health agency. And in us speaking before, I was very inspired by your message of like why you started this agency, being that there were not locally owned. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah. Like Mary said, my name is Kelsey DeFries, and I am the owner of 901 Home Health Care. And I am a home health occupational therapist. I love home health because if you see a patient when you are at the hospital or in rehab and you ask, what is your goal? The answer is always, I just want to go home.
Right.
So I love treating patients in their home. And when I moved back to Memphis a couple years ago, I started working for the big corporate world, one of the home health agencies, and I just saw a lot of things fall through the cracks. And I have been a travel OT and I've learned in a lot of different places. So I kind of got to piece together all these things that I learned from these different agencies around the nation. And I was like, well, what would it look like since all of the agencies I knew about in Memphis were owned out of state by a non-clinician? I'm like, well, what would it look like to be locally owned and clinician owned? So started this right at a year ago. We're celebrating our first year next week. So
exciting.
Yeah, so we've learned a lot in the last year, and it's been awesome to have something that is local. And I'm still an OT, so I get to see all of our patients who need OT, and it's been really sweet to kind of create my dream team. Since I'm from here, I knew what clinicians I wanted on my team, and yeah, it's been awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, I owned a home care business for 12 years, and I have not met one person who says, I want to go live somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? They all want to be home. So today we thought it was important to share different ways and things you can do, either to have the stamina to stay at home, to prevent things, but also once you do have a health incident happen, how you can be healthy in your home so you can stay there as long as possible.
Right.
So what is one or a couple common denominators you find with do you call them clients or patients?
I call them patients.
Okay.
Since we're medical. Yeah.
Yes. See, I was in home care, we said clients.
Yes, same thing.
Right. So with your patients, what are some of the common things that you see that if you could share with our audience or share with future patients, like you'd want them to know?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I would recommend is modifying your home and making it safe prior to an incident happening. I think so many times I meet a patient that has been living on the second floor of their home for years, and that they knew that they were aging and that probably wasn't the safest place, but because they were independent, they didn't really have a reason to change, and all of a sudden they fell and broke their hip and can't go upstairs, and now they're trying to modify their home while they're injured and still in rehab or whatever that looks like. So,
well, let me interject for a minute, because when that happens, a lot of times you're turning over the decisions of how you want to modify the home to someone else, right?
Yes, it's no longer yours.
Right.
You can't.
Exactly. You're focused on getting well and on your recovery. And I don't know about you, but if something's my choice and I get to pick how I want it to be, I'm a lot more happy with the outcome.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I always say, like, everyone knows someone in their life whose balance or stamina has decreased, and that person could be you. And when you go to that person's home or your own home while you're healthy, give yourself a house tour, or make that person, make that relative, that friend, that parent give you a house tour and see what areas of their home aren't accessible. If they're having to sidestep through a door with their walker, then that isn't accessible.
Right.
If they're having to jump over cords or move furniture to get to their preferred recliner, that space isn't accessible.
Yes.
So while that person is healthy and you have extra hands to help them, modify their home where they can safely walk to everywhere they go.
Right.
And there's not an obstacle.
Yes.
But do it when you're safe.
Yes, exactly. So, my husband is a little older than I am, and we're, almost to retirement age.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'll still be doing this because I love it. But
you should.
But he's going to be retiring, and we have a condominium that we visit, and when we went to go do the decorative renovations
Right.
to make it our place, we also widened the doorways. Neither of us are disabled in any way.
Right.
But we just recently went through his mother, getting sick and not being mobile. So, and besides, my experience working with seniors. So when we went, it was extra money, but,
Right.
Thinking ahead to your point and like making those modifications, if you're going to do anything,
Yeah.
also include something physical that might, be an obstacle in the future, even if
Right.
it isn't now.
Absolutely. And some modifications are expensive or require actual like labor, but some
Yes.
things are as simple as if your walker can't get through your door, most walkers, the wheels come on the outside of the
Yes.
walker. You can unscrew those 4 wheels, put them on the inside of the walker, and that saves you about 4 inches.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And that's usually the difference of being able to get through a standard doorway and not being able to.
Yes. What I've seen people do actually is take some of the trim off the doorway, because there's usually a door stop
Yeah.
of some sort, and it doesn't always have to be as thick or as deep as it is.
Right.
So that was another thing I saw people do, is just narrowing that thickness of that
Right.
door stop just so that the walker or the wheelchair could
Can
get through.
And a lot of doors have those thresholds to get over, which is a huge fall hazard. I'm
I'm
not.
sorry, I didn't.
The little threshold.
Oh, threshold.
Is that what it's
Yes,
called?
yeah.
It's like the little metal
Yes.
piece or something that you
Yes.
have to step over.
Right.
I'm not handy, so I don't know like the function of them, but I know that they aren't needed.
Correct.
And so just taking those off of
Yes.
those older homes so that you don't even have that half-inch threshold,
Correct.
because that is what your walker, you're going to trip over it.
Yeah, I think they were started when, one flooring type comes into another.
The transition.
Right. So that's why
Yes.
they call it a transition strip. But, excuse me, to your point, especially if it's the same flooring.
Right.
And when we redid our condominium, we put the same flooring
Throughout.
everywhere. So
Yes.
thresholds weren't needed. That's another
Right.
thing to think of.
Yeah.
Just put a luxury vinyl in or some tile or some hard surface that's easy to
Yes.
navigate, and then you don't need a threshold.
Right. Another thing that isn't expensive is putting in grab bars. My pet peeve is patients who think that they're safe because they have suction grab bars all over their home. Unfortunately, suction grab bars last about 1 use, and then the next time you get in the shower, it's down. So I would recommend, while you're healthy, while you're safe, get your nephew, your local
Right.
handyman, someone to come over. They're not expensive. They'll go to Lowe's and they'll screw in those metal
Yes.
grab bars. And every person gets in and out of the shower differently. Everyone is at a different height. So I would have someone practice getting in and out and see where they're naturally putting their hands.
Yes.
Where are they naturally touching the walls?
Right.
And that's where you put a grab bar.
Yeah, you often see when we were providing home care that people were using everyday things like the shower door or the handle that you use to open the
Right.
shower, or maybe put a towel over
Right.
as their means to get in and out.
Yes.
Those aren't built, right?
Right.
They aren't really built for human
Yeah.
physical use.
If you think about like your towel racks that might be in your bathroom, like the little rod, like a towel rod or a hook. Remember, your towel weighs 2 to 3 pounds. That's what it's meant to hold.
On my thinnest, I don't
Yeah.
think I was. I think maybe at birth I was 2. No,
Yes.
not even at birth. I was probably 10 pounds.
Right. So it's not meant to hold us. So that's how you need the actual
Right.
grab bars.
Right.
And then a second thing that you mentioned is holding on to like a door or something. I'll have patients that are getting up from the toilet and they're holding onto the door in front of them, or they're getting into the shower and they are relying on the sliding door. The problem with these things is they move.
Yes.
And so when you're transferring or you're getting in and out of the shower, often on the toilet, in and out of the car, relying on something that doesn't move. So that would
Yes.
be like a sturdy chair, a grab bar, getting
Right.
in and out of the car. Don't rely on your moving walker or the swinging door. Rely on the handle that's
Yes,
inside. That's
because
not gonna move.
the abrupt change in the direction can really send somebody
That's gonna be the
off
fall
kilter.
hazard.
Yes,
Right.
Yes. I'm guilty of putting suction cup hand bars in my shower when I have elderly relatives visit.
Right.
However, I have been in my house and all of a sudden I hear kung kung chung 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 and I go into the spare
falling.
bathroom and lo and behold, no one was in there, but changes in temperature.
Yeah.
Air conditioning comes on and off, moisture in the room. creates a lack of suction, and they fall off without even people using them.
Right.
I've had that happen.
So again, it's one of those things, it's not going to hurt you to have a grab bar there. It's not going to decrease the value of your home. These are all things that as we're aging in place, we're going to want.
Yes.
And if you don't like the aesthetic look of just those silver grab bars, you can match, your bronze or your antique
They've gotten
brass or
really,
whatever.
really creative
Right.
with them, yes.
You can match whatever finishes you have in that bathroom.
I mean, as our population, the largest population ever, they call it the silver tsunami. Have you heard that before?
I've not.
Okay, they're calling it a silver tsunami because the
Right.
baby boomers are all reaching that age. And it's not when we're retirement age, because usually we're healthy moving around. It's usually 10 or 20 years after. And, as we age, we're a pretty big buying population. So what's happening now, don't be thinking about what those old-fashioned nursing home ugly bars look like. You have options.
Right.
So you can be as fancy as you want. I just saw now they have customized pill boxes. Mm-hmm. You can get engraving on the top, and they slide open instead of pop. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's all because of us seniors.
Yes.
Yeah, the next generation has a lot to thank for.
Right.
Be thankful for.
Yeah, and this is probably not like the most politically correct word, but like our generations are getting bougier.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like they want the nicer things.
Right.
They care about aesthetics
Yes.
probably a little bit more than my grandparents did.
Right.
So finding things that are keeping them safe but also are aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
You don't see as many aging people walking around with tennis balls on their walker because they
Right.
don't like the look of it.
Sure.
And so you're finding these things that
The solutions are coming up.
Right,
Yes.
the solutions are coming available that are safe but also aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So plan ahead, and when you're doing a renovation, think about these things.
Yeah.
Right?
And your next family gathering, if you've seen your 4-foot granny's 8-foot tall cherry bed year after year after year, don't wait until granny is in the hospital to think
Right.
like, oh, she fell out of her bed. I've always wondered about that bed.
Yes.
Go ahead and have that hard conversation of, all right, granny, is there an alternative mattress? Can we lower this bed? Can we change
Right.
the bed frame? Something that someone isn't jumping in and out of bed or walking up 3 steps to get to their home when you feel like you could put a ramp there.
Right.
Think about those things that have always caught your attention of, I don't think this is the safest.
Yes.
And go ahead and address it
Right.
while you're able, before it's a hard conversation,
Yes.
because now it's just a preventative thing. Like,
Yeah, speaking of that, you reminded me of something. Another thing that we did is we did some landscaping outside, which made us have to re-pour part of our patio. Mm-hmm. And I had a disabled friend that was she was my friend, but she worked for me as my scheduler. But she was permanently disabled. She was in a motorized wheelchair. And she inspired me that when we re-poured the patio, we eliminated the lip into the house. So if she wanted to come over to my place, she didn't have to come in the front where there were 2 steps. All of the houses have the fancy 2 steps, 3 steps, or whatever. And she didn't have to come in through my kitchen or my garage where there's a gigantic, step up.
right.
We just, when we were re-pouring it anyway, didn't cost us any different.
Right.
We had them eliminate that by pouring the concrete on a slant.
Right.
So she could park her wheelchair accessible van in my driveway, come in through the patio into my house without any issue.
Right.
So if my husband or I or a family member comes to stay with us in their wheelchair, absolutely no problem getting in and out of our house.
Yeah.
But I don't think people think that way.
No. You've got to
So
be
that's why
proactive.
Resource for Caring, having Kelsey share this with you today is important.
Yeah.
What are some of the other safety things that come up that you can think of to share?
Yeah, I think bathroom safety is huge. So outside of the grab bars, having a place to sit, even though you feel like you're independent and aren't of age to need any kind of shower chair. And the majority of falls in the home happen getting out of the shower just because you're slippery, you're hot, you're fatigued. So if you are aging and you are feeling like your endurance is decreasing, your balance is decreasing, if you don't have a walk-in shower with a built-in bench, have a shower chair in there. But I want a sturdy shower chair that has a back and set like bars to handles to lift up from. So not just a stool.
Just picture yourself standing trying to put your underwear on. I know that's kind of a silly thought.
Right.
But do you put it on the same way you did when you were 20 years younger? I have to say I don't.
Right.
I mean, I don't
So
want to
being
describe
mindful.
what goes on for me, but I'm sure it's for all of us that as we age, you know, you're just not as sturdy, as steady
Right.
as you were. And if you're hanging onto something like a door that's going to move, or, you know, a counter while you're on one foot,
It's not
may
gonna
not be
work.
the best thing.
So it's the same with, you know, your dressing routine, having that sturdy place to sit. You know, some people, again, I talk about that tall bed. If you're sitting on the side of the bed to get dressed, which is usually a safe place, minus you don't have the back support, but if your feet aren't touching the floor, it's no longer a steady base of support.
That makes sense.
So having a steady chair that's not a rocking chair, a steady chair right beside your bed or in your bathroom that you're consistently getting ready in, that your feet can touch the floor and you have a backrest, so that when you're putting on your pants, all you have to worry about is the range of motion and the strength to put on your pants. You're not also worrying about the core balance.
Teeter-tottering on one foot
You're
while
not
you
having to
stick a
worry,
foot in. Yeah.
Correct. You're not having to worry about the balance or the core strength. All you're doing is putting on your pants.
Right.
So when you can only focus on one thing, you usually have the strength and the range of motion to do that.
Excellent. I'm going to just take a little break here and do a shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Mid-South Home Helpers, and Tim Flessner's the owner of Mid-South Home Helpers. He is partnering with Kelsey. Tell me a little bit about how you're partnering to keep people safe in the home.
Yeah,
what are you guys doing? There's a campaign going on?
Yeah, I think that is a huge topic because I get calls almost every day of people who meet me or maybe my parents' friends who are looking for someone for their aging parent, and they'll say, Kelsey, we love your personality. You would be the perfect person to come sit with my mom for 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And that's beautiful. I would love to do that, but that's not what we do.
That's right.
And so we are medical services. We do OT, PT, nursing, speech, social work in the home.
You're not making meals. You're not doing light housekeeping or companionship or transportation.
Correct. So that's why Tim and I have become super great power partners, is because that's what his team does.
Yes.
They do non-medical, which means it is usually going to be out of pocket, but they're going to do the errands and light housekeeping and the companionship for the elders, where we're only in your home 30 to 45 minutes.
Exactly.
We're there for medical services. We bill insurance. We're going to do your therapy. We're going to make sure that your wounds are being addressed, but we're not going to sit around just to hang out with you.
Yes.
We would love that, and sometimes we'll stay around and chat, or you'll invite us to stay with dinner and we'll do it, but we're off work at that point.
Exactly.
So that's not what we do.
No.
So sometimes,
well, if you're doing that, then you can't be helping people with their health. I mean, there's only so many hours.
There's only so many hours. So I always say we touch the patient, not the home. So as soon as you need that non-medical attention, that's where Tim's team is going to be an awesome asset.
Yes.
We refer to each other all the time. We can work hand in hand because they aren't billing insurance. You can receive both. So you can receive the OT and PT needs, the nursing needs, while also having that caregiver.
Yeah, and you can schedule that around when the health care, it doesn't have to be, coincide.
Yeah.
So
and also,
while you have health care there, you're getting that care.
Yeah.
But then, they can arrive at a different time.
Right. And I think it's cool to have extra hands who are all on the same page.
Yes.
Tim and I have been in a home together where a family is disagreeing on the safest way for their dad to get in and out of the shower.
Right.
And my team is coming in to help with this, and then Tim's team is coming in to work with the non-medical hours. And so I said, hey, how about I just make a video of how I think is the safest way. That's the way. It's a neutral party.
Yes.
And so I demonstrate the safest way for this man to get in and out of the shower. Tim sends it to everyone on his team. I send it to everyone on my team.
I love that.
And then the family sent it to every family member who's ever with dad.
Right.
And now everyone's encouraging the same thing.
I love that.
So
a lot of times when you don't have care in the home, when I owned a home care agency, people would go into rehab, for example, and they would get a exercise routine or, instruction on how to get in and out of the shower. And then there's a little bit of a disconnect because it's the family that gets that information, and sometimes it's the patient only, not even the family.
Right.
So then they come home, and how is that information being transferred over to the family members beyond the main person and the caregivers, whether they be outside or family? And I think that's such a great thing that you're doing to bridge that gap, because, video, we're on video today, but video's like worth 1,000, right? Don't they say one picture's worth 1,000 words?
Right.
Well, a video, I can't even imagine how many millions of words.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
I don't know how detailed. You'd have to write an instruction.
Right.
Whereas one short video demonstrating is
we'll
amazing.
leave videos, we'll leave pictures.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to make sure I share that.
Yeah. So with that
people.
campaign, we're just looking for families to connect to opportunities like this, rehab facilities where I'll talk about the people on my team that can help with those medical services to keep you safe at home. But then Tim's team can carry out the non-medical. They also have like a safety alert system to prevent falls and to get quick access to EMS when needed. So we really do work hand in hand together.
And one thing I like about Tim's approach is that both the owners have been caregivers themselves. Actually, Tim is still a caregiver for his mom. And I know that scheduling is always an issue for home care, making sure people show up. And I know that often if it does happen to happen, that a caregiver is, has a sick child or they get sick themselves or something, that Janelle and Tim have stepped in themselves to be the caregivers. They've been there before. They're very experienced. And there's nothing harder than when you're planning on doing something and then you find you can't do it because somebody hasn't or wasn't able to show up. So that's what that goes deep. I think that's a big deal.
I've noticed that as well. I've gotten to a patient's home before for an OT evaluation. So it was the first time I had met the patient and I had said, hey, have you gotten a shower today? And he said, yes, actually Tim was here this morning. And it wasn't Tim's team member, it was him. And I really want that humbling approach too. If I, as the owner, am there for an admission and want to meet a patient and they have to go to the bathroom, like I never want to be above helping with a toileting routine or a bathing routine. Like we're in this field because we love our patients. It's super vulnerable to be in, both for the patient and for us.
It's a vulnerable time, physically, mentally, everything.
So every day of my life in this career, I go from some type of professional attire like this to scrubs and medical gloves, like doing the work. So I love that balance, and I know that Tim can advocate for that.
Well, and it's funny because a little, embarrassing story is that I ran late today. And Kelsey's like, no problem. I just work from my car whenever I need to. Kelsey's on the road all the time.
The back of my car looks like a wardrobe because I go from like scrubs to medical to working out back to, all the professional attire. So that's what I do. That's home health. So when people are like, oh, where's your office? Or
there it is, parked in that parking spot.
Other resources would be like, hey, can I pop by your office? I'm like, yeah, you're going to be at my house having a cup of coffee with me, or you're going to see my car. That's our work right now. So
do you have another point that you want to share with our of safety that comes to mind, that if you could make everybody aware ahead of time what to look out for?
Yeah, I think a huge thing is the preventative portion.
Oh, I like that too.
So don't wait until you've broken your hip to do therapy or to do
strengthening
anything. I always say as we get older, and even currently, I am actively using my mind every single day because I'm working. But once you're retired, you don't necessarily have that. And I'm always on the go, like I was just talking about. So I'm naturally getting activity in. But I recommend people my age and people in their 90s to spend 30 minutes a day doing something physical. So your heart rate should increase above baseline for 30 minutes a day. Whether that's going for a walk, doing an arm bike, something that even just walking around your home.
Energetically moving.
Something that increases your heart rate. 30 minutes a day for heart health, and then for brain health, for cognitive health, 30 minutes a day of something that's stimulating. So it's so tempting as we get older to just sit in front of a TV, and you earned it, you're retired, you worked your whole life. But spend 30 minutes doing a crossword puzzle, doing a jigsaw puzzle, playing a card game with someone you love, something that makes you think. That is the best preventative thing. 30 minutes for your heart and 30 minutes for your brain.
So who would have thought playing with our grandkids are good for our brain health?
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be work, right?
No.
It could be fun.
It can be fun. So And some people, they are bummed because they can't do what they used to do.
Yes.
Well, I used to, go to the local bar, or I used to
Yes.
jump on my driving tractor, and I can't
Yes.
do that anymore.
Yes.
Okay, well, did you also read, and do you still enjoy reading? Or do you
Right.
like to play a video game? Or do you like to do poker? Like, there are things that you can still do safely at home.
Yes.
Even if you can't jump in your car and go to your favorite place or go to the YMCA. Like, there are things that you can do in your home.
It's funny that you brought that up because our speaker today, we have a live speaker once a month. And so you'll be able to find this recording also on Resource for Care. She's a life coach and a Toastmasters expert. But anyway, she came in and she spoke about how to expand your life as you age or keep
Right.
it expansive. She was amazing. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend. Her name is Charlene McBlain. She's an international speaker. She spoke to us from Canada today. And she talked about that very subject. And there's a book. I'll have to give it to our videographer to post.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even pretend that I don't remember the name of it right
Yeah.
now. But it's a book about reducing your age by expanding your abilities as you age.
Right.
So anyway, we'll put that in the tagline somewhere. But look for that, Charlene McBlain. It's very a very good talk. I find the other thing is that getting up and off the floor is an issue. We only have like a minute or two. Can you give a little bit about what
Spark
things?
notes, how to get up.
Yeah, well, not how to get up, but what to do to keep that ability strong
Yeah.
longer, because we do sit. I'm guilty. I'm
Yeah.
in my 60s. We do sit as we age.
Yes. Once an hour, you need to be on your feet.
Okay.
So I tell all of my patients that.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you are awake once an hour, you need to be on your feet.
Okay.
A lot of times, like, our bladder is weaker as we get older, so we're naturally having to go to the bathroom a ton.
And we get annoyed by that.
Right.
But we
It's
can
a-
plan it to happen if you're getting up
it is
once
a reason
Yes.
for our aging population to get up from the
Right.
recliner and walk
So it's a
to
positive.
the bathroom. Yes, exactly. If they are able to walk, don't put a bedside
Right.
commode right beside
Right,
them.
right.
Have them actually physically walk once an hour.
Yes.
If they don't need to go to the bathroom or they're using Depends or something,
Yes.
just stand up and march in place or walk to the kitchen and back.
Right.
Do something.
Yes.
Every single hour that you're awake on your feet.
It's funny, we had a client who did not want to do his physical therapy, but it was crucial to him to regain his strength. And he had 8 children.
Wow.
And I don't know how, they used to keep a plaque that they changed all the
Yeah.
time. I want to say they had like 50 or 60 grandchildren. I don't even know how many grandchildren. But they would make him, they had a routine where he would walk around the whole inside of the house, and each lap was named after one of his children
That's amazing.
or grandchildren.
Yeah.
So this one's for, Betsy, and this one's for, so that was
I
one
love
way that they sort of engaged with him to
love
get him
that.
to do his physical therapy.
I will say, if I do not feel like I've gained great rapport with a patient, I bring up their grandchildren and immediately
Yes.
they light up.
Yes.
One thing that I would say that this career has taught me is I think I have never feared death because of my faith, but I've always feared the dying process.
Sure.
I don't want to age. I don't want to lose my
Yeah,
abilities.
what is that gonna look
I don't want to
like?
lose
Yeah.
my independence. And I have learned that it can be a season that you really do thrive. You're not
Yes.
just surviving day to day.
Correct.
When our patients have the right people in place, whether that's family or caregivers, medical and non-medical, if they have the right resources, they actually do love that season of life.
Yes.
The season that you've worked your whole life for, that retirement season, even
We've
if you're...
seen it happen.
Yes. Even if you are homebound, I have seen people truly thrive
Right.
in the season of life that we're working with.
But the message is plan ahead and put things in place and do what you need to do to stay healthy.
Exactly.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Kelsey.
Thanks,
You've been
Taylor.
great.
Thanks, y'all.